Hi, and welcome to the Suli Show. My name is Ahmed Suleiman. This is the first episode, and we will have two special humans with us who are very active members of the Somali Toronto community, Faduma Mohamed, Habiba Adan. Faduma and Habiba are co-founders of the Positive Change Toronto, which is a strong advocacy group and concerned citizens who have united to tackle youth violence in the Somali Canadian community. Faduma and Habiba, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are we doing today?
Alhamdulillah, we are okay.
It's a little bit cold outside.
Yeah.
It's been, 3 weeks severe Ontario lockdown. How has that been treating you, Faduma?
I started locking myself down since March of last year when COVID first came. So we closed our office and we work from home. So for me, I'm actually locked down since March of 2020, So it's okay, alhamdulillah. I can work from home and, get my needs here in home, and I have family living with me who go and do shopping, and when I need medication, go for me and take the medication. So far so good, alhamdulillah. It can be much worse, and thanks to Allah, I'm very blessed.
That's amazing to hear. There's been a lot of people who have suffered this past year, and this thing, the COVID, isn't getting easier. Habiba, I would like to start with you. If you'd like to give me a little bit of background to the audience of your experience and who you are.
Yeah, my name is Habiba Adan, and I studied at home, Somalia. My first degree was economic in Somali National University. And then I did my master's degree in United States at Vanderbilt University at Nashville. And also I did another undergraduate at York University. So, and since then I was working with the Somali community. I am a mother of 4, and I am a wife, and I think I also advocate for the youth violence.
Furthermore, you have transitioned from the German education system to the Canadian education system. How was that transition, and how was your experience?
So it was not a very easy transition, as many immigrants, refugees who come. I did my master's degree in agricultural science in Germany, a very famous university there. But when I came to Toronto, and I sent my, degree for evaluation, I had to do that. And they did not recognize as a master. They say, your degree is somewhere between, our master and our bachelor, much more than our bachelor, but less than our master. So if you want to be recognized as a master degree holder, you need to go back to school and then get further education. But at that time, I came to this country as a refugee with 3 children, and I had all the issues to take care of my kids and settle here. So I just decided, listen, so I did my best in my education, from Somalia to Germany, and everything, and still I am not there where I wanted. So I decided to go where I should go, not where I like to go. And then that's why I started working. And then when I was in Germany for a while, after the civil war broke in Somalia, I used to work in a refugee camp, international refugee camp, and I used to interpret for them. So for the language Somali, English, and a little bit Arabic. And there, then I was really very involved in social work, helping the African refugees, whether they are Somali or the other parts of Africa, and any English-speaking person who came to that camp. And there, then I gained some on-hand experience as social work, and being raised by my mom, God bless her soul, and she was a social worker. Somali moms are actual social workers in our neighborhood, taking care of the neighborhood and then helping the poor and everything. So when I came here and I couldn't work with my degree, so then the teacher who was helping me with resume writing interviewed me, and I explained what other life experience I had gained from back home from my mom and from my experience in Germany. So then I developed a social work resume so that I want to work in the social work. So then that's how I started, getting work and working with the youth. So my early decision was I prefer to work with the youth because I thought they are the future. So we did whatever we could do, good and bad. So I said, maybe let us focus with the kids, with the young people. And Allah blessed me, and I really had all my work, most of my work focused on Somali youth and newcomer youth.
Do you find many correlations between issues that other African newcomers face and that the Somalian newcomers face? Since you have direct knowledge as a newcomer who had extensive knowledge prior to moving to Canada, and you had to transition your career, do you find that to be a barrier that are stopping a lot of Somalian adults from being a productive member of this Canadian society?
I think the newcomer in Canada, I will be putting in two different categories. Those who immigrate to Canada, who really mentally and psychologically prepare themselves, and they came in their purpose is to come and settle and stay here. And refugees are those people who come unprepared. You go wherever you think you can go with whatever way and method you get to just save your life, the life of your kids. And I think refugees are very disadvantaged compared to the immigrants. And I think this disadvantage that we bring as a refugee, unprepared, unplanned, all of a sudden in a country that's strange and you don't know, that actually is one big additional problem what the refugees or the Somali refugees have faced. Plus everything else that we share with other Black community, on anti-Black racism, systemic racism, a very, and also our experience from back home is totally different. So the education system in Somalia is based on 100% trust on the teacher. The teacher is the one who teaches, and the teacher behaves like your dad. And the education system here in Canada is the responsibility of the parents to take care of their kids after school and run the kids through the system. So, I think we share all those disadvantages what the newcomers get. But as a refugee and from Somalia specifically, as a refugee from Somalia and being 100% Muslim, I think we brought extra, we were actually facing extra problems that the other African newcomers did not face, I think.
Do you find that a lot of newcomers also, because of the difficulties of transitioning into the society, that they end up settling for something less than what they are capable of?
Yeah, of course. Before I came to Canada, when I was in Somalia, I used it to be the general manager of a national program, agricultural cooperatives in Somalia, for a while. And when I came here and went through every struggle, frontline work, and then settlement worker, school worker, all that thing, and then I became executive director after almost 15 years, executive director of a small agency now I am, 7 people. And compared to where I came from and where I am now, so you see that you are not progressing, we have regressed. And I think with me, my example, and people think I am lucky, I got food to employment and I got job, Alhamdulillah, I'm lucky. But if you compare what our capability were when we brought here and what we got as jobs, you cannot compare. We have PhD holders, master degree holders who are cab drivers because they don't get jobs in their area. So, and I think that is what we have faced, that regression, and the knowledge and the experience we brought was not very useful. And I think most parents, including myself, have to make tough decisions. So shall I really continue building myself and looking better future for myself, or I will try to really put bread on the table and help my kids out of this problem. So most of the people go and get jobs just to survive.
That's very unfortunate, and can see there's a lot of correlations to the issues that are happening to the youth today and the connections to that. Habiba, as a social worker, an active member in the Somali community for over 24 years, what did you see, or what do you think are some of the causes of Somali family breakdowns?
I think I was hired for Somali families. My job was, working with Somali families, parents and children. And Somalis, when they came, they had a settlement issue. finding houses, knowing the school, what it is needed, registration, and all that. That was settlement issue. After they settle, they have their own, apartment or houses, and the kids go to school. The other issue surfaced, which is family breakdown. The family breakdown started with the fathers coming after their wives and children, and then the mother, decided to decide for the children, for the school, for whatever the family needs. And then when father come, that role reversed, and there was a conflict in there. The father wanted to be a head of the household. The mother already was head of the household, and then the problem started, and family separation was beginning of that. So men, no matter what the education background is, they couldn't find a job. They become taxi drivers. They become, at later time. So mother and children were working together. The mother was responsible for everything, including myself. I was working full time. I was going to school and also working at home, cooking and cleaning. So to adapt a Canadian way of living, it's too difficult when you come from another country.
And the civil war that happened in the late 80s and the early 90s, and there was a lot of Somali families that moved over to Canada and transitioned their life to the Canadian society. Based on the family breakdowns that you just mentioned and what Faduma has mentioned previously, do you think those issues that happened earlier on are what led to some of the issues that a lot of youth in Toronto are facing today in terms of violence and crime? Faduma?
Yes, I say, as I said, we came Amberberry, and I think the youth and crime issue of the Somali community, has multiple root causes. So I think as positive change, when we found the organization, we sat for almost 3 months to analyze where is the problem coming from. We came here to save our kids. We came here to give them better future. And we thought they have a school, they have a house. So what's happening? So we found a lot of 6 main issues at positive change. So one of the primary issue was the family issues that Habiba alluded to it. And I think specifically, this is my personal opinion, what I think is that, we Somalis, know families, specifically moms, know how to raise, a very good, successful daughters. Really, we raise boys the way we used to raise back home, and the back home, the responsibility of, the responsibility given to daughters was given early enough in their life. So 7-year-old, the mother will say, go cook, go clean, and all that thing. But the boys are not given those responsibilities, so they really didn't get so. And then plus the additional free time the boys are given. The boys have no curfew. A girl can't stay in the dark, after 8 o'clock, 8 p.m., whatever, 7 p.m. She has to be home. So the boys got freelance. So they really were staying home. He's a boy, so why, but he can stay outside. So this, really not adjusting to the situation that we found it when we came, which is very harsh for the boys, was not being actually, we were not aware of that. And people fall into that trap. And then when we found out that, the boys are really going wrong path, it was just a little bit too late. So the family breakdowns that Habiba said is also a part of the problem, because, you have a single mom household most of the time in our community with multiple kids, and, does everything. So the father is either absent or he is there and he is not very involved. And back home, fathers were not that much involved in their upbringing of the kids anyway. So that is one of the things, the family issue. And then we found out also the next issue is the neighborhood. Because of low income and unemployment, underemployment, most of us were forced to live in low income neighborhood, which actually also that neighborhood, attracts a lot of people who really want to, bring the kids into a bad situation. And then the neighborhood also had, the schools in the neighborhood were not the best schools. So the low income neighborhood schools suffer more. If you look the testing in grade 6, I think, and grade 9, the average, passing is very low in those neighborhoods. So the school system was not very supportive. Then when the kids drop out of school, there were no appropriate opportunity for employment if the person drops from school for whatever reason. So they don't have no people who connect them to trades or any other jobs. So, and then the other reason why also we thought it's very, the issue is the criminal justice system, policing and the court system, which have multiple biases, and the carding, the anti-Black racism, which is very obvious. And the last point we thought is mental health. So we came from trauma, from war situation, and the trauma was not dealt properly. So the mental health problem also was very high. So these areas we thought are the root causes of the issues dealing that we have, the youth violence in our community.
And also the Faduma mentioned a free time. Children, because the mother has more than 4 children, she is very busy, and the kids, especially boys, were given a free time. So they can go outside and play basketball. And that they meet other kids who are in a similar situation. And also they talk about, something unhealthy, and they are adapted to that. So it is the beginning of the fallout of our, especially boys, when they started going out. When they are inside, less than 10, they are with the mother, but after 10, that is where they are alone, and they don't have a father figure that points what is, waiting there.
There are a lot of resources for many of the Somali youth, especially in these communities.
I think they don't have that much, because what I know, we went to a school, I don't want to name, and then we said that these kids, Somali kids, and the kids in the neighborhood use the recreation services, and they say no. So there is a 2 issue. Parents, they don't know there is a recreation services there, and if it is, it has very far from where they live. Take a Dixon, where Somalia are concentrated. There is no swimming pool next door. There is no other judo and all that recreation next door. There is no library in the next door. So many activities that help the child to grow are far. They have to pay a bus, or somebody has to accompany. Mother, she cannot do that. So they are in a neighborhood idle, and that's where the things. And it's not only Dixon, there's a Jamestown, there's a Jane and Finch, and recreation is very far from.
For those, for the audience, for those who don't know, Dixon is the biggest Somali community in Toronto. It happens to be in the west side of the city, as well as Rexdale and Jamestown, who are also on the west side of the city. And these happen to be the most populated Somali communities in the city of Toronto. Faduma, in addition to what Habiba had said in regards to resources, has there been any strong community-based foundation besides Positive Change that have been very actively been involved in these issues in order to bring enlightenment and support to the youth?
There are a lot of initiatives that people are doing. So I know that specifically in the recreation, both basketball and soccer, there are teams that have organized themselves. There are daddies who are volunteering, really are helping those people, the kids. A lot of youth it's just, self-initiatives that are doing, and they are like positive change. There are a lot of other small initiatives that the mothers go together, because what can we do? I know also that the mosques are playing a major role. I know Khalid bin Walid, has a very active youth program currently now happening with them. So there are initiatives. People are not really sitting back and waiting for help. But the reality is that this is the issue we are dealing is more than what the Somali community can resolve. Who is absent here is all three levels of government. The government, these kids are born here, they are Canadian kids. They are yes, of Somali background, but they are here as Canadian, as everything. So this is a problem that needs a national attention, that needs provincial attention, or also municipal attention. And that attention is not present, unfortunately. So the Somali agencies that are funded are few, and those who were very strong at the beginning get defunded. They don't get enough funding. So that's a big problem. But there are initiatives. I used to work at the Somali Youth Association of Toronto, before a while ago, and at that time we were doing everything by ourselves. We use summer camps, and workshops and mentorship and all that thing we were trying to do, help them. So this is the thing. People are not waiting for help. That we are trying to do whatever we can do, but this to resolve youth violence in the community needs more than initiatives like positive change and other groups. It needs major attention from the government and major investment to our community.
Can I add that, yeah, initiatives are good, but they have an end time. The government, if they give even funding, it is 1 year or 2 years. And then the initiatives, it's a project, and that is the end. So if they had those communities a long-term funding, things could change. And they can help continuously, because human being to turn around, it needs a lot of time. It is not like, taking a bus and then coming home and that's I'm done. It's a continuous communication, continuous, listening, and continuous giving advice. As a social worker, I never had an individual that I see only 2 or 3 times. I have to see so many times in order to this person to start their own life change in their own way. So government, as Faduma said, the 3 level of government, they give 10,000, 20,000 here, and that is all. And then you have to start from the scratch. So long-term funding is missing in a Somali community organizations.
But if I may add also, is that the institutions that impact our kids has to change too. So if it's the education system, if it's the employment sector, if it's criminal justice system and the policing system, it is not only for Somali kids but for all Black kids. This systemic racism, anti-Black racism, which we know is very alive and present in all our institutions, has to be pushed back. So if people are not given equal opportunity and equal chance, like people who have different skin color, then, we are not going nowhere. So we have to fight back to push, this systemic racism, anti-Black racism. So the institutions have also to change.
Do you think Islamophobia is also another issue that directly affects the Somali youth?
Yeah, of course. Islamophobia is another problem that our kids are facing, like people are, specifically our girls who have hijab, who are very visible Muslims, practicing Muslims. So they really face problem in the employment sector. I have seen multiple girls come to me and say, Auntie, I'm going to interview, but I don't want to wear my hijab. Otherwise, I won't get the job. So they really, they know that this is a problem. And even, when career development, people have been told, oh, you are a Muslim, you can't do this, you cannot do that. So, not being only refugee, not being only Black, not being only Muslim, we have multiple, problems that actually, work against us. Islamophobia is big time present.
Habiba, would you like to add anything to that?
Also, we just to say that Jen and Finch and all that, your neighborhood postal code also affects the employment. When a youth looking for a job sends the resume and puts his or her own address, the neighborhood, then that, what I heard, that will not allow even to be called as an interview. So that is another obstacle beside what Faduma said.
That is very unfortunate. And because of the lack of unemployment in regards to coming from communities that are very challenged and have a lot of issues, it also connects the crime and the violence and youth being in the justice system. Habiba, I would like to touch up on a tough subject that you are familiar with and have experience with. There were 80 homicide victims in the year 2012. 7 of them were young Somali men, and 2 of them were 2 boys that you were familiar with. One of them being your son, Warsama Ali, and his friend Suleiman Ali. Uh, what do you think were some of the issues that were affecting a lot of the Somali youth in the year 2012? Because there was a spike in violence, especially in the gun violence.
Yeah, if I just go back to Somali population in Greater Toronto, they are very small number, and 0.9% are Somalis. That is roughly, I'm saying roughly, I'm not 100% sure. And the homicide, it is 2%. So you can see that a Somali young man is killed more than any other communities. That has the same number. That is one point that we are, our kids were over killed. And my son Warsame, 2012, he came from Montreal. He was working at the Montreal. And then he called me and said, my health card expired. And I said, can you come on Saturday? Monday morning, you go and apply for health card, because he was not resident there yet. And his health card was in Ontario. So then he came on Sunday. Monday, he went to apply. And then after he did go there, he went to Jamestown, where he will be killed, to meet his Suleiman, his friend. And they were there and they had a dinner and they talked there. At the same night, he was killed. So I think so many youth who are killed, they are in a wrong place at the wrong time. And they were not involved with that much youth gang and all that. But for the news and newspapers and all that, each youth who is killed, they label as known to the police. And that is another setback that all parents and community gets, because once they say known to the police, everybody will think that that person was somewhere wrong. Before my son was killed, 4 other youth were killed at the same year. And we started to notice and said, okay, what we can do to help our community and our youth. When we met twice or 3 times, the 4th times that we were about to meet, my son was killed. So September 18, 2012. So because I was doing advocacy, my advocacy role, and myself and Faduma and so many other mothers and family members and community members, we start to accelerate what we can do to stop this, because every year few Somali kids or youth are killed.
So you
and the government is not doing that much.
Before we get to that part, prior to your son, before he was killed, you were in meetings and you were working with families and mothers who have been affected by gun violence?
I was meeting with from my work.
Right.
But when we started positive change, it was that I was working exclusively for family who are impacted by gun violence. And mothers, and we used to go to their places, and then because I was hurting too. So I wanted to connect with the woman whose son was killed and hurting as much as I do. So it is heartbreaking when at work, I was at work, counseling a woman when the police came and talked to me, saying that my son was killed at 1 o'clock in last night. And when they came, it was 1 o'clock in the daytime.
So 12 hours later.
So 12 hours later, that I was told that my son was killed. And it is something that it is hard to comprehend, because they non-Somalis, they think that the kids who were killed, their parents are educated, their parents were not working, and all that. So my husband has PhD almost. I have education high, and both of us were working full time. Why my son is killed then? So it is not what others tells us about. It is who we are. We are very, fortunate community, but we need to get together, and the government has to do its part, because we are all Canadian. Our kids, majority of them, they were born here.
Did they give you a reason why they notified you 12 hours later, or to why it took them long to connect with you?
They said his fingerprint was not in the system. So they have to make sure who they are talking about before they meet the parent.
Did you see any risk behaviors with Warsame prior to his death? Was there any red flags?
I think there was some red flags, but as a parent, you dismiss some of them. That he comes late, that is my culture. That at one point he was not working for 8 months. That is fine. So all this, when I reflect back, there is a red flag, but it was not a red flag for me when at that moment that I was in it. And there was a few things that I should have done as a parent, maybe that could. This is when I feel guilt that I missed something. And every parent whose child is killed, they feel, did I do something wrong? Why I allowed him to come late? Why I allowed to go and visit Mr. So and so? Still, I ask that question. After 8 years, I still ask that question. What I have done to, that my son could have benefited. But in reality, I did what a parent could do.
Yeah, it's there's only so much that you can do, and only if you can go back in time and make few changes. Furthermore, to touch up on a similar subject, but from a different angle, as a founding member of Positive Change, how has gun violence in general affected the Somali community?
Yeah, but I want to just add a point to Habiba's
Absolutely.
point, which is, most of the Somali, boys who get killed, we don't know who killed them. All cases are cold. So the cases are cold. There's no inquiry. There's no, investigation. There's no clear cases. So, and that is also most upsetting, that there is no attention given at all to these cases. So you see, if and then we compare. We are human beings. We see what happens in the news. Somebody white get killed, the next day they arrest 4 people, 5 people. The owner of the gun, the guy who brought the gun with the car to the boy, the guy who really shot. So I think it's just that the importance is given to the death of the black, kids and Somali kids, in that group. Is really very minimal, and it's really very sad and very upsetting that all murders are cold. But how that impacted? It have impacted immensely because the mental health situation in the community, and what someone was my nephew, and when he get killed, and we were in the morning in the house, every group of mothers who came to condole us, you will see 2, 3 who will say, "Oh, my son is also killed." And somebody will tell you even much horror story. I remember a woman coming to us and saying, "Oh, at least you saw his body and you buried your son. My brother get killed and I haven't seen even his body yet. So I don't even know if he died or if he's alive. But she thinks he died. So like you think you are suffering, but you will see somebody who is suffering even much more than that. So it really has immensely impacted the mental health of the community.
Can I add
Yes,
something?
of course.
Other communities, if the child drops out or pushed out from high school, they have employment, they have businesses that absorbs that child, that he or she can work in there. But in our community, we don't have that. So every, a child who is who drops out or given a suspension, they are idle going around. And they cannot get a job because one maybe their age, the other one is there is no Somali businesses that can absorb or that can, then if the child is outside, it's a human being, might commit, take a dollar store, a candy, which is something not that, but at the same time, he gets a criminal record. So we don't have a Somali business, big Somali business that we can say that we can send the children to survive. And also then boys, fathers are role model for the boys. If the father is taxi driver, the child might idolize, might think about taxi driving is a good way of living. And if the father is a truck driver, or the kids might even fantasize to do the same thing. Although the fathers, they always do hard work in order to give a good education and income that they can go to university and do a better job that they get because of the language barriers, because of the commitment to his family or her family.
Faduma, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, what maybe we could come to looking for solutions. For example, where I work for Labor Community Services, and there is a project that's close to us, and I work very closely with them called Toronto Community Benefit Network. So this project is existing for the last, 5-6 years, I think. And the aim of the project is to actually enable youth, Black youth and marginalized youth to get jobs in the trades. As you know, every child that goes to school will not end up in university. Some can and some cannot. So those who drop out of the school, and even specifically those who come in, who confront to a confrontation with the police and have criminal record, can clearly have a decent job with the trades. And alhamdulillah, some Somali boys, get, through that system. So and I think there are systems outside that we can utilize, but there's a lot of also homework that we have to do as a community. First of all, believe that not every child will go to university and finish. That capability is 100%. And then B, it's nothing wrong if your child can become a construction worker or a plumber or an electrical worker. So, and I think that's what, because I see many kids who want to join, they say, my mother doesn't let me do this. So the parents still believe that the child can go to university. And I really commend mothers who really push the boys and the girls really to become, academic and go to university if they can. But if they can't, so the alternative is not to be, in jail or to go into criminal activity. Alternative can be what others can we do. So there's a lot of resources that is outside that we could maybe, if we were better organized as a community, could utilize. So that is something that we have to look, because, yes, we have seen, we are now almost 30 years in Canada. So we have to start looking for, how we come out of this thing. And I think if I answer my own question is that we need to organize ourselves. Maybe I am talking as a labor person working with union, that every community who came here, organize themselves to really have economic success. The Italians have organized. When they came first year and they were doing construction workers, they were getting very little money and people were dying at workplace, So they organize, they move, they back in, they get more money, they get settled and get, the Italian community is much more prosperous than many other communities, but his community is the same. So, and I think what we need to do is organize. And I will really put the onus on organizing on Ahmed, you and your generation, because, us, whatever good or bad we have done, I think we are approaching at least my age and Habiba's age to the end of our work life. So I think the young people have to open their eyes and really, because this is your future, so, get what's good on us and then move. And actually the youth have to really start helping themselves and organizing themselves, unfortunately, or fortunately.
If I add, there is a lot of Somali youth who graduated or who are working in trade, but they are not organized. So I think we have to maybe come together and invite all Somali or most of Somali youth. I'm saying youth, but if the man is 40 years still working, lawyers, people who work in a communication banks, we have a lot of young men and women who are working. So it will be good if we come together and organize and then have a plan to help other Somalis that they unfortunately are in other situations.
Do you think the history of Somalia, especially the last 30 years, prevents in being a strong community today?
I think the government plays a role. There is a small organization, Somali organizations, and they are fighting one pot of little money from the government. So coming together, maybe it is hard for small organization. They might think that they are losing income somewhere or funding some other way. But Somali youth, if if you and other Somali youth come together, you don't have to, look the scattered income that every organization is having. One organization, big one, that employs, more than 20 or 30 Somalis, it is better than 10 organizations that get funding and employs one or part-time or one full-time person. We always lose if you, put together the statistics. All organizations, Somali organizations, the people who work Somalis are few, two or one or even less. So it is the Somali young men and women who should take the lead, and we are passing the torch to you guys.
So to get to your question, so the recent history and how is that impacting our organization capacity? I think that was your question, if I understood it correctly. Correct. So that's why I say take the good in us and leave the bad. So the bad in us is the division that brought us here. So the Somalis divided themselves into regions, into clans, into sub-clans, all of those crazy Somali politics that actually led to a civil war that brought us here. So, and when we came here, although we are now in another country that's run differently, that the politics are differently, we still carried our divisions that we brought from back home. So that is why I'm saying take the good in us and leave the bad. The bad in us, my generation I'm talking, is the generation of tribal division and regional division. So, and youth hear that from home. They are raised with that kind of biases. What I'm saying is that, yes, I never say don't listen to your parents, listen to your parents. But now you are an adult, you are a rational thinking person, you really look, analyze and see, what is, good, what I'm hearing from my parents, what is not so good that I need to change. So that's why, you have to be close to the elderly and also learn from them and see, so this is something I can gain from my elderly. For example, your roots, the history of Somali, the geography of Somali, the language, the nature, you can learn that. That's still positive on us. But the unorganizing and the political disaster that Somalis have led to themselves for the last 30 years is something you should not multiply and learn. So, and I have seen, unfortunately, traces of that even in the young people. I used to go to some of the university where I saw fist fights among Somalis. Say this is, I didn't need to look that flag, bring another flag, among young university. That actually hurts me much more than the disaster that we inflicted, because I thought if people come here, they go to university, here study, they are rational thinking young people, they know what peace means, they know what tranquility means, they have education here, that they can be better than us. But unfortunately, I'm seeing that some trace of that is also coming to the young people. So my plea to young people who are listening here is that, please, this is your future. This is, you are Somali, you are Muslim, but Canada is now your country. Now look what your grandchildren and great grandchildren will be doing. We really need to act and put our act together to really move forward and see, if we don't even need to rediscover the wheel. The wheel is discovered. Other communities who came to Canada prospered when they united, when they organized. So, and that's why I'm saying young people have to do that. I don't think that my generation is capable of doing that anymore.
Can I add that a positive change also did a lot of advocacy on youth, and if we think about, we reduce the barriers and fear between Somalis and police. We also advocated for Somali police. We succeeded. We advocated for the newspapers and TVs not to put a picture of a youth who was killed. But what we are missing is that the good life that person who died had, and and good behavior. We don't talk about it. and newspaper, they don't say and pick that. I think we have to work on not only Somalis but all people who are marginalized, like and black. We have to work on that to celebrate that person who was killed, his life, because no matter what that person or young man did, it doesn't deserve to die. So and doesn't deserve to just to say police, known to the police. That person has a history from the day that person was born and the day that person was killed. So to celebrate the beauty and good life and behavior that person had before, time came. So we have to work on so many other issues, but those are important to know and to celebrate the life of the person who was killed.
Furthermore, do you think that the Somali community in Toronto, and especially just all in general, we tend to lack of, like you said, celebration and also reflection, and we mourn and then quickly move on?
I think as a culture, what I feel is that, and I'm not expert in Somali culture, but what I feel is more, bringing the positivity out. The community, we really talk about the bad thing, bad behavior, all that thing we like talking about. I think it's that culturally. And there is, I think, a Somali proverb that says, bad, good thing will not harm you, but be aware of bad things. So be very careful of bad thing happening to you. Maybe that is
the reason.
That's the reason that we talk. So we have enough to celebrate. If you compare, yes, we are going with specifically with youth killing, it's unproportionally higher than any other community. But given the situation that we came with, we have kids who really excelled. We have professionals in all areas. We have lawyers, we have engineers, we have doctors, we have people who are really have done good business jobs and have settled. So we really don't celebrate our successes as much as we mourn our problems. So and I think that might be something culturally, and the kids are complaining. When my kids came home and then did a good in their exams and get A+, I say, okay, I just accept it. But the day they fail, I was yelling at them and screaming at them, and they say, mommy, you don't celebrate when we are successful, but you scream on us when we fail. So that is how we are raised. So I think that might be also an impact on our psychic, on the Somali psychic in general.
Faduma and Habiba, this is a question for both of you. Do you think there's a huge stigma when it comes to mental health, and that prevents a lot of our parents from getting support and resources and help?
Yeah, but mental health is actually something that the community doesn't actually, unless the person admits they have mental health problem, you cannot help them. And I think people don't like, they can easily say, I have high blood pressure, I am diabetic. That's normal, but mental health people don't come out, and we hear a lot of new phrases, for example, the new refugee wave, you will hear, so bofis might be a sort of depression, somebody who doesn't sleep, who is very anxious, who has issues. So I think the education, detecting the mental health, education is first of all missing. We just found when somebody has very high stage of mental health and then can harm themselves or harm other people. That is when we get aware and try to intervene at that time. But I think the mental health awareness still needs to be improved, and it has really a major impact on our community, and the stigmas there, stigmas there. Even forget about mental health. COVID-19 is now impacting a lot of members of community, but they really don't admit that they have COVID. They will say, oh, Habiba high. And then what are your symptoms? Oh, I don't taste, I can't smell, all my muscles are aching. That's what we hear from TV on COVID. But people think this is taboo subject. So there are taboo subjects that really need a lot of public health education and awareness raising to them. And mental health that's one of the top priority that is negatively impacting our community.
Habiba?
Can I add? Yes. Mental health is also tend to be more for men Somali men and men in general, because we women, when something is bothering us, we cry and we tell other people and we talk about it. But for a black man or a Somali man, they tend to internalize and that grows and then may even express in a different way, and that is why the mental health issue is not only about in Somali community, but all over Canadian population, and especially this time of COVID-19, mental health is very high.
Mental health has spiked huge, especially since COVID-19, and knowing the stigma is huge in the Somali community, I only worry it has gotten worse. Is there any active programs that are involved in supporting Somali families and communities in understanding mental health and the stigmas? Faduma?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of workshops and seminars. So I think what Habib was saying, that the Rexdale Community Health Center is in the heart of Rexdale, and Somalis can go there for help. And if people really, there are a lot of programs that can educate people. My office have organized a mental health workshop the other night, and over 90 people registered, and over 80 people participated. So it's really very, and we run also, sessions for the Somali parents on issues of mental health and issues of mental health. And we that is possible. We have Somali girls who are certified and Somali men who are certified who can do that. So if need comes, we can still always do that for the community, and just to inform them and educate them. I think that is one of the first steps we need to take.
I would like to end it here. Faduma and Habiba, is there any initiatives that Positive Change is working on currently, and how can you be contacted?
The initiatives we are trying to really work now very heavily on the criminal justice system and the Somali youth. That's a project that we are currently doing. And there are other initiatives that we would like to do with even Ahmed Suleiman and the Hidayah House. That's all in process. So we are trying to really connect all Somali young people initiatives, and then encourage and help them build their capacity so that they will really succeed and take over when we retire. That we get young people who can replace us. So that's what we are doing. And anybody who wants more information or wants to know more about Positive Change, just contact Ahmed's show, and Ahmed will connect you to us.
And you also have a website?
Yes, we have. Yeah, it's www.positiveChangeTO.co.com.
Yeah. Habiba?
I think Faduma talked and summarized all. And Positive Change, we are eager and open to work. All organizations, all initiatives that other organizations or groups are doing, because together we can change, but individually it will be hard.
I would like to thank you for your time. It was a pleasure speaking to you both. I think we've provided a lot of information young people can benefit from. Faduma and Habiba, I would like to thank you for being very active in the community and being very supportive and helpful. I hope to continue this work with you all.
Thank you, Ahmed. Keep the good work. We like really to see many of you. Thank you very much for inviting us in your first show.
Thank you very much, Ahmed, and I hope to collaborate with you and everybody else, your friends and other organizations. We are open, and we need somebody to give the torch to continue. Thank you.
Absolutely. Look forward to working with you, and thank you for your time.